after my second time of viewing the movie, I had a chance to gather my thoughts more, and it's still chaotic. I feel like the story itself is just too chaotic to really even go through in a organized fashion, but I have like definite bullet points now that I want to hit upon, because I felt like it was just so brilliant the way that the movie went about exploring these themes. Let's get into my official thoughts on the Barbie movie. So first of all, I want to say congratulations to Margot Robbie, because I feel like it's been a rough couple of years for her. Margot Robbie is interesting because she is such a great talent. Like, she's universally recognized for being just a really, really great actress, right? I think her first breakout role was in Wolf of Wall Street, which I hate that movie. And I hate her character too, but that's a testament to her playing it really well. It's more impressive when you consider the fact that she was like in her early 20s. I think she was only 23 or 24 when she was playing the wife of the main character in Wolf of Wall Street. When she debuted on the screen or on the scene with that movie, it kind of like cemented her A-list status. It was just no question that she was like one of the great talents of our generation. But I feel like she went through a bit of a rough patch in her career, particularly starting with the Suicide Squad movie, which it was universally a pan because the editing was so bad. I think it's because they had an original storyline or like some original scenes with Harley Quinn and the Joker where it would have been too controversial to put it in because there were people accusing Marvel of glorifying abusive relationships, which is what Joker and Harley Quinn are in. I forget exactly, but one of the scenes, I think the Joker was supposed to like abandon her, and then they decided to completely change the story and edit it so that he saved her or something. I don't know. It ended up in the movie being just really, really badly edited. You could tell that it was like chopped up and sewn back together. It was like worse than a music video, honestly, which really hurts me because like I really wanted to like that movie. Actually, to this day, I might go revisit it at some point. I don't know when, probably on a plane, because that's the only time that I would have time to watch Suicide Squad. But yeah, so I feel like with that movie, I mean, people liked it because it was such a big IP, but it flopped in terms of the actual art of the movie, right? So then after that, I think she started her own production company, and she made the sequel to that called Birds of Prey, which I didn't watch. And I feel like that one, the people who did manage to go out and see it had positive reactions to it, but the timing for that one was horrible, right? Because that was like right at the beginning of the pandemic where everything shut down. Even if you wanted to see it, like you probably were not going to go out of your way because, well, first of all most of the movie theaters shut down, so how would you even go see it? Birds of Prey is actually good. See, so like you and some of my other friends who went to see it expressed the same sentiment, but I just remember as a whole there was not a lot of hullabaloo around it. I think solely for the fact that the timing was really bad. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic. So that was just like bad luck, I guess. And I feel bad about it. If the timing was better, if the theaters were open, and if people were more inclined to go out during that period, it could have been a smash hit, especially considering that it was supposed to kind of be the redemption to Suicide Squad. But alas, that was kind of a missed opportunity. So then, yeah, she was in I, Tonya, right? Which I like that story a lot, actually. There was a period of time where I was just obsessed with watching all of the old footage of the interviews with Tonya and the girl that she sabotaged or allegedly sabotaged. I forget her name. I don't like the other girl either, to be honest with you. I don't know if that's like not politically correct to say, but I feel like she always came off very prissy and holier than thou in interviews. Understandably so, because she did get her leg smashed with an iron bar. So like just imagine if somebody did that to you. Like, I actually sat down and imagined, okay, I'm here like minding my business at this skating championship, that this is like my stage, this is my wheelhouse, and then some random stranger comes up and just like smacks me hard with an iron bar or whatever it was. That is traumatizing, to say the least. But I don't know, I don't like her. I don't like that bitch. I don't with that bitch, you understand? So Nancy Kerrigan. Separately from the incidents that happened, I just never was a fan of her. But yeah, it was messed up, the whole fiasco. And then Tanya Harding was like stripped of her medals and everything, which she should be if she was part of the scheme. but we never found out the real answer, right? And she still denies it to this day. She says that it was her ex-husband that did it without her knowledge. So like that was good, but I feel like that also was not, it was not a huge blockbuster box office hit. The people who were interested in that story, we went to watch it, but then I feel like it wasn't like Oppenheimer, right? There is only a certain section of the population that would be interested in that story. Not everyone is interested in rehashing old skating beef from the 90s, you know? So I think that one, the performance was great, and if you had a chance to see the movie, I think most people agreed that it was really well done and that her performance was really good. But I think the subject matter in that instance, it just already turned off a major segment of the population. Not turned off, but it was just not on their radar because it's not exciting. It's not like an exciting action flick, or it's not Oppenheimer, which is like a much more contentious piece of history that everyone kind of, whether or not you agree with the moral implications of it, it's kind of really in your face and like really something that a large part of the population wants to know about that history. But the Nancy Kerrigan and I, Tanya situation, it was a little more niche, right? Unless you're really invested in figure skating lore, I don't see like the general moviegoer being too concerned about that movie. So I was waiting for like the next big masterpiece, or like the big blockbuster that Margot Robbie was gonna be in, that was gonna signify kind of like her comeback. Not that she ever left, because that's also, again, that's the interesting thing with Margot Robbie. I feel like her star power is so big that she managed to survive all of those mishaps, right? Like the Suicide Squad, and then just the bad timing of the pandemic and Birds of Prey, and I, Tanya just not being that compelling of a subject. All of that, but she still like managed to retain that image of Hollywood's curtain darling, and she also managed to remain very relevant, which is kind of a mystery to me, because usually if it was anyone else, I feel like they would have been susceptible to really falling off the scene or just like falling out of public consciousness. But Margot Robbie has the ability to really like, she stays in your mind as an actress, and so that's why I feel like after this Barbie movie, I think we've reached, or I'm saying it because like I feel very connected to it, but the Barbie movie reached over $1 billion in revenue worldwide now. So it's kind of like, it's that huge comeback bang moment that I feel like I was subconsciously waiting for Margot Robbie. So congratulations to Margot Robbie, and then like also we kind of touched on this earlier, but congratulations to Ryan Gosling, because I feel like he also kind of had a dry spell. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. It might have been, you know, people step away from the industry sometimes for personal reasons as well. Sometimes they do it on purpose. So I'm not saying that anyone like fell off or anything, but I'm just saying that Ryan Gosling, he's been quiet for the past several years. Like I actually kind of forgot about him until he popped back up again with this Barbie movie. And then of course, you know, it's the ultimate kind of triumph for him as well, because so many people, including myself, were very, very skeptical when they first saw the decision to cast him as the main Ken, and he just like blew everyone's expectations out of the water, right? Like not only the emotional performance, but that huge musical number. Nobody could have delivered it more perfectly than Ryan Gosling. And like the people who were saying that he was too old to play Ken, go touch grass. Like I don't know what to say to you. Are you still trying to promote ageism in 2023? Like that is so dated. I mean, talk about ageism, the irony here. You saying that somebody is too old to play a movie role is like something that an old person from the 90s would say. That's like an old ass diss that people used to say in the 90s. Like, we don't get with the program, okay? Criticize his fashion sense or something if you really want to hit someone where it hurts, which you can't even do, because Ken's fashion was fabulous in this movie, and I feel like Ryan Gosling is still kind of rolling with it. I love that he has adopted this character of Ken into his own personality almost, it seems. Every press junket interview that I see him on now, like every red carpet appearance, I feel like he is still LARPing as Ken in a way. And I'm here for it, okay? I am here for the Kenergy. I am very upset that I was not able to get my pre-order of the Kenergy t-shirts and stuff. Like, there is one hoodie left that says Kenough. It's the tie-dye one, which I'm not really a fan of, but that's the only hoodie that they still have pre-order open for. Everything else is sold out. and I'm very upset about that because I want my Kennergy t-shirt and I want it now. So again, like I kind of mentioned before, I feel like this movie is so, there's something in this movie for everyone. Even the setup for the movie, like you can kind of tell that they are setting you up to think that, oh, it's going to be all pro-woman or pro-feminism, but you kind of know, they give you clues already in the beginning that it's not going to be so one-dimensional as that. And your suspicions are proved correct quickly when Ken and Barbie go into the real world and Ken discovers the patriarchy. His position as a man is kind of respected and revered for the first time in his life. And so you kind of like, even before that happens, somehow the film sets the tone in the beginning that it's gonna be that type of a dynamic, like that type of a conflict. And I think it's really brilliant. Okay, I would call it the Barbie movie, like the story that is presented to us. I feel like it is a pretty much an airtight composition, meaning that you cannot really, people who are criticizing it, saying that it's pro-feminism or anti-man, they are completely missing the point. And actually, like, the more riled up they get, the more triggered they get by certain scenes or ideas that are explored in the movie, the more it proves the movie's point. Because the movie is so meta in the sense that it's like a mirror, right? It exposes what the moviegoer itself or himself, herself is feeling. So like whatever state of mind you are in with regards to feminism or like your place in the world as a man, your place in the world as a woman, if you are unhappy about it, then you're gonna see this. We can look at it from both sides of the spectrum. So like if you're a woman that's very, let's say that, you know, you are buying into all of the feminism, like the toxic elements of feminism these days, and you think that all men are shit, and you have a lot of baggage where men mistreated you in the past, so you don't have a good overall image of men, you are gonna go into this movie and you're gonna see certain scenes and you're gonna be like, oh, see, this movie is anti-woman. It is reinforcing the idea that we're just a bunch of bimbos. For example, when Ken brings back the idea of the patriarchy and he implements it in Barbie land within like 2 seconds. When Margot Robbie's Barbie comes back and she starts asking like, what the hell happened? Why are you guys dressed in Hooters outfits and serving beer to the guys, you know? Like, why is the president dressed in a short Hooters style onesie and serving beer instead of doing her presidential duties? And then the Barbies are saying, well, you know, it's actually kind of fun to not have to think, right? To just let the men do the leading and all the hard work, and then we get to just stand here and be pretty and flirt. It's actually quite fun, and it's a nice break from like all of the responsibility that we used to have. So if you are a woman who is like very embittered, harboring a lot of negative feelings towards men in general, you're gonna see that and be like, oh, see, this movie is like against women because it's portraying us as bimbos and that we're easily influenced and yada yada. That's not the point though, because if you are in a healthy state of mind that, okay, the world is what it is, right? Like there is always going to be some sort of shit show going around us, but I know like my intrinsic worth as a woman. If you are a healthy woman who embraces both her feminine and masculine side, and you know how to integrate both aspects of your personality, and you understand that the feminine part of you is also important to your quality of life as a woman, then you'll see the same scene of like the Barbies easily succumbing to the Ken's idea of patriarchy. You're gonna see the same scene and you're not gonna be triggered, right? You're gonna understand that, yes, I know what they're talking about. Sometimes you don't want to shoulder the responsibility of being a badass boss babe in the 21st century. Like sometimes it is nice to lean back and let your boyfriend or let your man, my man, thank you to my man, you understand what they're talking about. Even though I am very ambitious, I have like a very healthy masculine side that allows me to be a go-getter and to excel in my career and all of this stuff. At the end of the day, I'm still a woman, right? Like I'm still a feminine essence being. It does feel nice sometimes to just like lay back and let the men take charge. So that's what the movie's saying. And like if you are in a healthy state of mind, you're gonna understand, you're gonna catch you know, that message. But if you're like, I hate all men and like this world is against women, this world is going to be misogynistic forever, then you're going to take it as an insult where there is none. Your mind is already primed to take everything as an attack on you and your character. So that's why like the people who are not in a healthy state of mind, they're gonna take everything that this movie says as an insult because it's hitting upon their triggers that they haven't worked out on. So it's not the movie, it's you. It's reflecting back to you what you think about yourself, that you don't have power or that like you're stupid. You have this fear that you're gonna be seen as a bimbo. That's why you try so hard to overcompensate and prove that you're not, but then you're actually deeply unhappy because we're not meant to only imitate men and only do things the masculine way. And so that's where the cognitive dissonance is coming in. And they even talk about cognitive dissonance of being a woman operating under the patriarchy in the movie. So like that's why it's just meta upon meta upon meta, and there's so many layers to it that I don't think I can even attempt to explain all of them in this one video, but I'm gonna try. So same thing with the men. People who think this is anti-men, they're saying that, well, you know, they're portraying the Kens as like these himbos, basically, right? Who don't have a personality and they don't have a purpose in life except to try and get Barbie's attention. Like they're basically portrayed as, you know, slaves to the Barbies. I will say, okay, so there was one joke that I feel like I could have personally done without, where they were making the real life dad of the girl Sasha. So like Gloria is the mother, right, who works at Mattel, and she's the one that's actually been playing with her Barbies, and she's been having these kind of existential crisis types of thoughts. That's gotten transmitted to Barbie in Barbie Land. So that's how they kind of, you know, Barbie goes into the real world to find her so that they can fix everything. But yeah, so like they were portraying Gloria's husband and Sasha's dad as kind of like this one-dimensional, just idiot dad character. You see him sitting on the couch with his Duolingo app trying to learn Spanish phrases, and he's just kind of like, it's very obviously that running joke about how dads are useless and they're clueless about what's going on in their kids' lives, especially if the kid happens to be a daughter. So I could have done without that joke, but I also feel like if you are a healthy masculine man who is secure in their masculinity, you would not be so triggered. You are a big boy. You can take like this tiny little joke about dads being these hapless, bumbling idiots. The joke is made in a loving way, I feel like. So even if you, like personally, I feel like they didn't have to do it twice, because they did it twice, you know? They did it like once when, right before Gloria and Sasha decide to go with Barbie back to Barbie Land, they're like, oh no, but what about dad? Isn't he gonna be worried where we are? And then they show him like on the couch trying to pronounce this, you know, simple Spanish phrase. And they're like, oh yeah, dad will be fine. And then they do it again at the end of the movie when they drop Barbie off to her appointment, and then the dad turns around to her and says some phrase in Spanish, and they're like, no dad, you can't say that, it's not politically correct. So I feel like they didn't have to do it twice, but I also feel like, again, if you're a man that is secure in his masculinity, you would not be so fragile as to like crumble just because somebody made a stupid dad joke about you. You know what I mean? I think it was like Ben Shapiro or something. I watched his review just for the entertainment factor. I actually did not know that it was possible to misinterpret everything on the level that he did in his review. The only explanation I can think of is that he was doing this on purpose. Like I cannot conceive of somebody actually genuinely wholeheartedly misinterpreting like every single point that the movie was trying to make to the degree that he did. I just don't accept it. But I don't know, maybe he really is that much of an idiot in real life. He was basically harping about how the movie is anti-men. He's like, well, you know, in Barbie Land, it's a matriarchy, a full matriarchy, so Barbies control the Congress. Everything is made for the Barbies, right? Like they throw parties every night for the girls, and then the Kens are just left there to fend on their own. They don't even have their own dream houses, right? We don't even know where the Kens sleep at night. And I'm like, that is literally the point of the movie, though, that a full matriarchy is not the solution, right? Like we have a lot of problems going on under the patriarchy, and so the movie is kind of geniusly giving us an insight of, okay, think of this alternate, you know, microcosm reality in the form of Barbie Land, that we do have women in charge of everything. And it does seem like on the surface, it seems like everything is pink glitter and flowers and rainbows, but we are being told like very not subtly, in a very not subtle way from the onset, that the Kens are very unhappy, right? Like they're smiling on their faces, they're kind of acting like everything is okay, but we can tell very quickly that there is an undercurrent of something is not right here. Something is not all the way just, not all the way equal. It's not explicitly stated because you don't have to explicitly spell things out for people like A, B, C, D, alphabet soup in order to be a good movie. A good movie, a good script will convey certain messages to you if you're receptive to them, right? Like if you have half of a working brain, Ben Shapiro, a good movie does not have to spell things out for you. You can tell from like the interactions of the characters and from the actual scene. You're supposed to be able to feel that there's some sort of unease there, right? Which I feel like I'm pretty sure every single person in the theater, even like the Japanese people. So I watched this in English with Japanese subtitles. Even the Japanese people who don't speak English and who have to rely on Japanese subtitles to understand the context of the movie, they felt it too, because it's something that is conveyed throughout the entire scene. Okay, this is the art of movie making, right? Like it's not something that just the dialogue, just the setting, just the surface level setting of them being in this matriarchal Barbie land. You're not supposed to take everything at face value. So the whole point of setting this up so that the Barbies are in charge of everything and the Kens are treated as throwaway accessories is to show you how wrong that is and how that is not a solution to patriarchy. Like, I don't even know how to debate this almost, because it's like the points that he was making, like the things that he was getting triggered over, it's not even a thing. It's exactly what the movie was trying to convey to you was wrong, that this is not the solution to have the Barbies be in charge of everything. Oh, and then like he was saying that, okay, I don't want this video to all be about Ben Shapiro, but him and other commentators in his same sphere, they were also saying that, okay, so like in the penultimate scene where they go on that campfire date with their respective Kens, and they let the Kens, sing to them and play guitar to them, and then at the very last second they start texting a different Ken to make their Ken jealous. This is how they use a male nature against them, right? This is how they use the Kens, their desire to please Barbie and to like win over Barbie. This is how they're going to use it against their own nature against them, so that the Kens will start to fight with each other and the Barbies can reinstate their own parliament, right? Or like re-vote to put their regular Barbie members back into Congress. Again, people were saying that, oh, this is so anti-men. They're using the Kens against each other. That's so anti-men. That's so misandrous. That's the point. That like they don't want to do this, right? But this system, whether it's full matriarchy or full patriarchy, so at this point in the story, the Kens have instated full patriarchy in Barbie land, and the Barbies are now suffering under it, right? So like under either regime or under either system, one of the group suffers, and so they're trying to correct this suffering to tip the scales back to equality. So that's why they're doing this thing. It's not like the movie is saying that, oh, they are correct to do this, like you should do this to men, you should just like play on their insecurities so that they fight with each other. That's not what the movie is saying. The movie is saying that this is the strategy, this is the what's it called, like the weak spot in the Kens that they identified that they have to exploit if they want any hope of restoring their old like system or their old power back. This is the last resort that they have to go to in order to do it, right? Like that's their only hope, or else the Kens are not going to listen to reason. They're not going to walk up to them and be like, hey, we were thinking, how about you just like forget about this whole patriarchy thing where you're kind of taking over everything and you're enjoying it with the whole Mojo Dojo Casa houses, and why don't you just give it back to us so that you can go back to your marginalized existence? Nobody is going to agree to that. That's why they had to hatch that plan. We're not saying that it's a good thing to do. We're saying that this is the story. Like, do you not understand the concept of a plot? People who didn't know that Push was a real song. Yeah. Which is crazy because I remember that song playing on the radio all the time when I was like in high school. Like I always knew that the song, I always knew the lyrics, but it wasn't until they utilized it in this movie that I realized how messed up the lyrics were. Like, I want to push you around, well, I will. I mean, I guess, I don't know, it's kind of like BDSM-y, if you want to interpret it in a more positive light. But yeah, I feel like that was the perfect song for this movie. Okay, let me see what else I have. I like this movie because like it encompasses like everything that I'm into these days with the whole manifestation. The story itself is airtight, right? Like it's a brilliant story, but like the way that people are either getting super inspired and like super mind blown in a good way from the story like I am, or just having a complete meltdown because it's hitting on and triggering all of their insecurities. That is the perfect example of mirroring, right? Like the concept that real life only mirrors what other people and other circumstances, outer circumstances in your life only mirror what you already think about yourself. So if you feel like you're unworthy, or, you know, if you're not confident in yourself, then you're going to see that mirrored in other people, right? But it's not because of them. It's because this is how you feel about yourself. So that's why it's important to straighten out your own self-concept so that you have a healthy, confident, and rooted in self-worth idea of yourself, and then that's going to start getting reflected back to you in other people and in other circumstances, right? And then there are still, like, there's going to be crazy people, because other people do have free will, so there are going to be cases where you might just encounter crazy people that try to bring you down or step over your boundaries for no reason. But then at that point, when you have a healthy self-concept, you're gonna know that those people are just crazy and you just need to avoid them, and you just need to, you know, sidestep them. It's not a reflection or a statement on who you are, if that makes sense. I have my issues with the movie, but the issues I have can easily overlook because I thought it was a fan movie, and it's nice to see something so colorful and unashamedly feminine. I definitely have issues with the movie as well. But yeah, like, I agree with you, right? So I agree with your sentiment. Overall, it did more good than harm, in my opinion. So one issue I have is that I still think that at the end of the day, I do think this is a movie for everyone. I think everyone, like, it depends, again, what state of mind you are in when you go into the movie. That's what you're gonna get from it, right? I feel like that is the point of art, and that's our right as a consumer of art to take it and interpret it in a way that suits us best, that reinforces our own personal narrative. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I'm having a great time doing it. And like the Barbie movie, it's so well made, and the plot is so intricately well thought out that I feel like it makes sense, right? It fits so well into a lot of the things that I'm working through right now in terms of my own self-image and just like my larger place in our modern society as a feminine woman. But at the end of the day, I have to say that I still think that this is a white feminist film, because look at the director, look at Margot Robbie, right? Like, the lead actors are all Caucasian. And even though, okay, so the thing that this movie does that is it's kind of like a sneaky little, it's a smart political tactic, but don't think that I don't see through it, is that they call themselves out first so that other people can't really say anything. Margot Robbie's Barbie literally calls herself stereotypical Barbie in the movie, so it's kind of like, oh, ha ha ha, I know, I'm aware of the fact that I'm the stereotypical blonde-eyed, blue-eyed Barbie, but look, I'm telling you that, like, I'm not the most important one, right? And then they even make her, you know, compared to all of the other Barbies in the movie that are of different races, different sizes. They represent more marginalized groups in our real society, and they have like jobs, Nobel Peace Prize winner and an astrophysicist, and then, you know, the President Barbie is a black actress, Issa Rae. So like, they say that, but then at the end of the day, the movie still centers around Margot Robbie's stereotypical white Barbie and her journey, right? So don't think that I don't know what you're doing, okay, Greta Gerwig and company. And yeah, like, same thing with the Kens, right? Of course, the main Ken is the stereotypical Caucasian Ryan Gosling Ken, who did an amazing job, but like, just because just because all the other Kens are like Asian and black, and they do have a significant role in the movie, it's still centered around the Ryan Gosling stereotypical Ken. So they do like self-effacing kind of jokes throughout the movie. There's even a scene where Margot Robbie's Barbie's having a breakdown because the Kens have taken over, and she doesn't know what to do to fix it, and she just feels like, okay, you know what, I'm the stereotypical Barbie, I don't even have a career, like, I'm just here to be, my purpose is supposed to be like the original Barbie. I'm supposed to just stand here and be pretty, and that's what I want to do. I just want to wait until like one of the leadership oriented Barbies comes to fix this whole thing. And so she's having a breakdown in Weird Barbie's house, and then Gloria, America Ferrera's character, is like, oh my god, what's wrong, you know? And she's like, well, I'm not pretty anymore. And they literally pause the movie to say that Margot Robbie is not the best actress to get this point across. And it's like, okay, I know what you're doing, okay? And like, this is not me saying anything against Margot Robbie. Of course, she is absolutely beautiful, whether she's crying or she could be bald, and she would be like still the top 10 gorgeous women on the planet. But like, I know what the directors and the makers of this movie were doing. They're calling themselves out first so that we cannot criticize later. But little do they know that, like, I am going to criticize you still, because just because you said it first doesn't make it not true. You know what I mean? I don't think that it fit well in the movie to have her break, or to have the directors break the fourth wall in that scene. It just kind of was jarring to me. And I feel like that scene, along with a couple of others, it just did not land very well. I didn't necessarily find anything particularly offensive or like not funny per se, but I just felt like some of the jokes that they did, it did not land well with me. And if it didn't land well with me, I think it definitely was kind of lost on Japanese audiences for sure. So I'm talking specifically also about the final scene of Barbie when she chooses to become a human. And so click off if you don't want spoilers, if you haven't seen the movie yet. By the end of the movie, Barbie decides that she wants to be a human because, like, I don't know. I really don't know. No, because like everyone else is kind of like, they have their purpose, right? Like all of the other non-stereotypical Barbies, they have their professions and they have their cool person of color identities. And then Ken also kind of finds himself, right, after he has that talk with Barbie. She kind of like gives him a heart-to-heart about how he doesn't have to be attached to her. It's Barbie and it's Ken. It's not, doesn't have to be Barbie and Ken. And so like Ken is also going on his journey of finding his own self-worth apart from Barbie. So for Barbie, she feels like, okay, the next step for me, like I don't want to just stay here and have the same day over and over again, like Groundhog's Day anymore. Instead of being the idea, she wants to become one of those people, like a human that is the creator of ideas, right? That's her next step. So then the final scene, it shows her dressed more like a human person now, right? There's no more neon pink. I think she's in like a camel colored suit, and then she has on her Birkenstocks now, so she's completely forsaken like the high-heeled pink glittery high heel life. Gloria and Sasha, like their family is dropping her off at what you think is gonna be maybe like a job interview, right? Maybe she is going into her new corporate career as she's gonna be like a career woman now in the real world. But the final joke at the end of the movie is that when the person at the receptionist asks her what she's there for, she says that she's there to see her gynecologist. I understand where they're going with that, like, oh, haha, okay, we thought it was going to be this deep thing, or that she was going to be like the boss queen CEO of some company, but it actually just turns out that the most basic difference between a doll and a human is that now she has all the body parts of a human woman. So like, haha, she's gonna go get her hoo-ha checked out by the gynecologist. And I actually, like, the first time around, I was like, what? Like, I was really kind of let down, to be honest, by that scene. Not because of, like, you know, I think that my initial reaction to the last scene proves, again, that we still think that something like going to the gynecologist is something taboo that you shouldn't talk about in public. But then upon my second viewing, I was able to, like, the movie allowed me to call myself out that, wait a minute, why do I think that this is so wrong? Like, why did it make me uncomfortable that they made that last line about a gynecologist? We should be encouraging girls to go to the gynecologist. It's a very important part of our health as women that, like, guys don't have to do. I mean, maybe they have their own equivalent of that, right? So I was able to question myself on my second viewing, that why did I feel so like not satisfied with that joke about the gynecologist, or just the fact that they mention it at all. Do I think that it's improper or something? I don't know. So it was, you see what I mean? Like, this movie makes you question yourself. It's very, very meta, and if you're open enough, there's just so many not Easter eggs, but there's just like so many different hidden layers of it, where if you really allow yourself to kind of dig deep and ask, okay, what does that say about me that I'm reacting in a certain way to this plot point, or to this joke, to this line, then I feel like you can get so much out of it. Let's destigmatize trips to the gynecologist. Exactly. Yeah, like destigmatizing the gynecologist, because there should not be shame about women talking about their health that is specifically related to womanly body parts, right? But at the same time, okay, I'm gonna say, I really don't think that it landed well with Japanese audiences. Both times that I watched it, I'm sure that people get it if they ruminate on it for just a bit. I'm sure they kind of get it, like kind of sort of understand the joke, but it was just not, the reaction was like, what the hell? Why would you even go there? Like, what is the point of that, you know? It just doesn't register well. in the Japanese audience. Oh my god, I'm losing my voice. So I saved the best for last. We're gonna talk about Ken. I hope my voice comes back. Oh my god. Okay, so first of all, I'm Just Ken. Total masterpiece. And what I like most about it is that, okay, it was so, that interlude part where it was like, can you feel Kennedy? I thought that that was just so, that elevated the song to masterpiece level for me. It was not just a pop song. It was not like, okay, there's this one song that I hate from, what's the movie? Frozen? Let It Go. I cannot stand that song. I feel like the Frozen movie was when they started to, and I know that this is not Disney, so sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but like after the Frozen movie, the first one came out, and then everyone was obsessed with that Let It Go song. I never saw the hype. Like I never liked that song because it just sounded like any other generic, annoying Taylor Swift pop song to me. And I noticed a trend in Disney movies after that first Frozen came out, that all of or most of the songs, the original new numbers that were created for those movies, started to sound like generic pop rather than like actual epic legacy music numbers that can stand the test of time. So I feel like when I heard this I'm Just Ken song, I immediately felt that old nostalgia of like, oh, this is one of those like legacy musical numbers that it's gonna be timeless. It's not a throwaway pop sound that is characteristic of just a certain decade or a certain point of time. Like it is epic, okay, is the only word that I can think of to describe it. I like how Ryan Gosling also, I think he sang the whole song, right? It's not like he has this amazing, you know, operatic Mariah Carey powerhouse type of a voice. I feel like his voice is very much regular. Like I think he did a great job on the song, but if it wasn't Ryan Gosling, I don't think anyone would listen to it and be like, wow, this is the best vocalist of all time, right? Am I right? But I think that's what makes it work though, because Ken, that's the entire point of the character of Ken, is that he's kind of representing like the everyman, the normal average guy, like nice guy, but yeah, nice guy with all of the implicit toxicities that comes with the nice guy syndrome. But like he's trying, right? So he's a nice guy, but he's actually, his heart is genuinely in the right place. And I feel like it was just like such a cathartic anthem for such a large segment of the population that actually are kind of living that experience in real life, where they're just like trying to be a good Samaritan in their everyday lives. There's a line in the song that he's like, you know, I've been so nice all my life. All my life I've been so polite. I'm just Ken. And I feel like it just encapsulates the what's it called? Like the ennui, the struggle of the everyday average guy so well. And I think that's why people latched onto this character. That's why he's so endearing to everyone. But the thing about Ken that I found really, really valuable, like his portrayal of Ken in this movie, let me reapply my lip gloss. The part where it really hits you in the feels. Oh, okay. I remember there's something that like happened with Barbie as well. It illustrates the dynamic and kind of like the struggle of male-female dynamics, and also the whole unrequited love trope where the guy is romantically interested in the girl, but she only sees him as a friend, which we see play out so often in real life, especially nowadays, because women are like getting pickier and pickier nowadays. Because I think, you know, women are more educated and we're accomplishing more in the like the corporate success, even though we are experiencing more success in the masculine arenas these days. That doesn't mean that we have let go or that we've outgrown our natural biological tendencies for wanting a man that is like higher than us on the success podium, if that makes sense. So that's why women are becoming pickier, and they're finding that there's like less and less of a pool of men that meet their requirements for dating and mating, right? And this is like, I'm not passing any judgment. I'm saying that this is actually the trend that society is going into in many developing countries, certainly in the West, but also if you look at places like China, Korea, East Asia, there's the rise of highly educated, usually very beautiful, like very well-rounded women who, you know, they take care of their body, they have a great career, they're very educated, but the kind of the side effect of that is that their pool of men that they find, like their requirements for men also go up proportionally. So they find that there are less and less men that are appealing to them as somebody that they want to spend their lives with as a long-term mate or get married to. And that's why there's the rise of single successful women these days. But anyway, that's a whole different topic. I thought, okay, again, another part of this movie that I thought was absolutely genius, and I don't even know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that scene right before before the Barbies are going to enact their final plan of going on that campfire date with the Kens and then making them jealous of each other so that they fight each other and then they forget about their plan to vote for the Kens to take over the Constitution or take over Barbie Land. The night before, or I guess like, you know, when they're getting ready for that scene, America Ferrera is doing Barbie's makeup so that she can put this plan into action, right? So that she's going to go to Ryan Gosling's Ken, and pretend that she's finally ready to be his long-term, low commitment, long distance girlfriend or something. And there's that moment where she's like, what if he doesn't like me anymore? And I thought that was genius because she never liked Ryan Gosling's Ken in a romantic sense, and that was made very clear throughout the movie. There were points where she seemed almost oblivious, right? Like, even though he was making it very obvious that he was trying to spend more time with her and like trying to prove to her his love, she was pretty oblivious to his hints. Like, for the most part, she was treating him as kind of just almost like a little brother. Like when he tagged along with her, stowed away in her car as she embarked on her journey to the real world, she was kind of just like, oh my god, I can't believe you're here. Okay, you can come, but like don't get in trouble, you know? Almost like a brother-sister dynamic. And so I thought it was so poignant when right before she's about to go basically like lure Ken in by making him believe that she's finally interested in him, she has that really real moment of, what if he doesn't like me anymore? I felt like that was so relatable because that's something that every girl or every woman can relate to, right? That maybe you don't want to admit it, but I think we've all had that experience where we know that a guy friend that we're only friends with platonically, we are not interested in him romantically, but you know that he has feelings for you. You don't want to enter any type of a romantic relationship with him. However, in some sense, like somewhere inside you, you get some sort of payoff knowing that he's romantically interested in you, right? Like, have you ever had the experience where you knew that a guy friend was interested in you romantically and you always kept him at an arm's length, but then you found out one day that he got over it, right? Like he wasn't interested in you anymore, or maybe he started dating someone else out of the blue. Sometimes they even get married on you, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought you liked me. Basically, they move on with their lives, right? And I feel like that's something that most women, we don't want to admit this, but it's true. It may be just a thing, like an ego thing, right? That we like the feeling of somebody being interested in us, even though we aren't not necessarily planning to reciprocate. So I felt like that was such a real moment, like when they had Barbie be worried about whether Ken was going to like her anymore, even though she made it very clear through the entire movie that she was not romantically interested in Ken. The fact that she voiced her, you know, her fear, and we don't know if it's ego or whatever, but like she didn't want him to not like her anymore. I think it's a mixture of ego, but also just the ingrained like feeling that we have of not wanting to let men down, right? Even if it's kind of their fault in the first place. Like Ken is the one that took over her house and brainwashed all her friends to become Hooters waitresses. She still has that soft spot for him. She still has that sympathy for him, which I feel like all women, we can relate to this, right? And this is what our empathy, our natural willingness, or our natural desire to give people, especially men, the benefit of the doubt. I think it was displayed so perfectly there in that scene. And then also when they successfully get the Kens to turn on each other, but then it's so beautiful because like the Kens start out fighting each other, but then they evolve into that huge like Ken musical number sequence where they eventually decide to hold hands and support each other, right? Which again, it's another important message for men and young boys, that you should support each other. Like, this is, the women support each other, but like we need also they need the same equivalent support from their brotherhood as well. It's not enough to just impress the women. Like, that's great if you can get a woman that that is romantically interested in you and that you can partner with for life. That's important to get, like, feminine support. But I feel like as a man, you also need a really solid brotherhood foundation, other men that you can depend on, right? So that was beautiful. But anyway, after that happens and then the Barbies are successfully able to vote their constitution back into place, Ken has his little, like, breakdown, right? And that was kind of one of, if not the most heartbreaking scene of the entire movie, where he realizes that the Kens lost and that Barbie, I don't think it's because the Kens lost. I think it's because he realized that Barbie was putting on an act the whole time, right? Because he thought for a minute, he was like, oh my God, do I dare believe that it's finally happening? She's finally expressing romantic interest in me. And then I think he always had an undercurrent of doubt that maybe this is not real, right? Like, maybe it's too good to be true. And it turned out to be the case, which is just devastating, as you can imagine. When he runs off into the Mojo Dojo Casa house and he's like, don't look at me, I almost cried. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm hearing a lot of stories about, like, dads that take their daughters to the Barbie movie, and then the dads end up crying. Or I'm hearing a lot of anecdotes of men who watched this movie in theaters ending up being the ones that are crying. I find that so interesting because, like, there were a few moments where I teared up or, like, I choked up a little bit, but it was never to the point where I felt like full on crying tear fest. So I think that's very interesting, though, that this hit on such a nerve with a lot of the male moviegoers, that they were so moved by Ken's struggles and yeah, like, by his pain, that they were moved to tears. But anyway, so during that scene where Barbie's like, okay, you know what? I think I need to go apologize to Ken. I don't remember exactly what she said. I think it was something about, the matriarchy. Like, Ken kind of admits to her that after he figured out the patriarchy was not just about riding horses, he kind of realized that it was not all fun and games. Like, he admitted to her as well that it wasn't actually that fun, feeling all of the responsibility of running Barbie Land and just, like, doing all of the, the things and the tasks and responsibilities that you have to do so that things don't collapse. He confessed to Barbie that it was not that fun and that, like, it was harder than he thought, So kind of his way of saying that, okay, I appreciate that even though the Kens kind of suffered and they were a little bit marginalized under the Barbie's rule, he was kind of acknowledging that, okay, but now I understand that you guys were taking over the bulk of the leadership roles, and now after getting a taste of that himself, he understands that, okay, it wasn't just like Barbies being power hungry and ignoring Ken. Barbies were running the place, Barbies were actually doing work that is not necessarily fun 100% of the time. But then he also, again, I don't remember exactly what was said, but it was something about how, like, Barbie was saying that, oh, we failed the real world, right? Like, I thought that Barbies fixed feminism and made everything equal for women and girls in the real world. But when I went there, I found out that that was not the case, that we actually failed them. And then Ken was like, no, you failed me. That was also just a dagger to the heart, because it's also, like, it's toxic, right? Because he blurted that out and then he kind of, like, he redeems himself later. But the fact that, like, that was his first reaction, that, no, Barbie, you failed me, it just speaks to, again, the expectation that a lot of men this day and age who are feeling disenfranchised and hopeless, or they feel like they can't get a girl interested in them to save their lives, they feel like it's our responsibility to make them feel better, right? And this is where they get a lot of their resentment, like a lot of the really toxic ones who develop really misogynistic views, feelings of actual hatred and resentment towards women. This is where their resentment builds up, right? Out of this expectation that Barbie women owe them something, when in fact nobody owes you anything, right? Like, sure, you could be a victim of the system and you can take steps to try and rectify that system, or try to get your message across to everyone that, hey, maybe we're not doing things all the way right here. But the wrong way to go about it is to place blame on the women, right? Sure, there are women who act out of malicious intent, or they act out of integrity. Like, there's a lot of women out there who take advantage of the fact that maybe a guy that she would never in a million years decide to get involved with him romantically, but maybe she'll take advantage of the fact that he likes her in order to get him to do things for her, or like do her favors, buy her gifts. That's on her as an individual, but as a whole, like, you should also have the discernment as a man, or just as any type of individual, to know when you're being taken advantage of. It sounds harsh, but it's your responsibility at the end of the day, right? Like, you also need to develop the ability to seek out predators like that and protect yourself from predators, regardless of what gender you are. So I thought that that line was also brilliant when Ken kind of blurts out that, no, Barbie, you failed me. And it was really emblematic, I felt, of what a lot of men mistakenly feel these days when they misplace their frustrations for things not going the way they want it to go in their lives on women. Last point about Ken. So in the end, right, we don't get the happy ending. We don't get that relief of Barbie finally realizing her love for him and then them getting together. No, Barbie says very pointedly that Ken, sorry, we're not gonna, like, I'm not gonna fall in love with Ken. Or I think she says it to the Mattel CEO. Will Ferrell was like, oh, well, stereotypical Barbie's story is that she falls in love with Ken and they end up together and that's the end. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, that's not going to work for me. Like, I'm not in love with Ken, okay? I don't know what to tell you. That's the reality. And then Ken, of course, Ken has to take it, right? On the chin. This is not what he wanted to hear, but this is the reality. And even though it doesn't change the fact that he's heartbroken and like maybe his morale is down for the moment, but at least at this point in the story, at least he has built up the self-confidence to say that I'm enough on my own as Ken. I'm Kenough, as the Kens say. I still, like, I'm gonna be very mad if I can't get my hands on a Kenough t-shirt at some point. I know that they're sold out right now on the Mattel Creations website, but they gotta restock or something, because, I mean, it would be stupid on their part. They would be leaving profits on the table if they didn't restock these t-shirts, because I need Kenough and I need Kenergy in my life. This is not negotiable for me. But anyway, I think it's brilliant because Ken's rejection by Barbie, it's something that, well, first of all, it's something that so many men in this world and like so many of the male moviegoers can relate to, right? Like, they probably have had that experience in their own lives, which is why I think this character resonates so deeply with men. But then it's genius because at the same time, it allows us female moviegoers, us female watchers, to experience vicariously through this character of Ken the rejection that so many men experience on a daily basis that we as women, we don't necessarily experience in our real lives. Does that make sense? Of course, everyone experiences rejection, and everyone, it is our individual duty and our responsibility to learn how to cope and deal with it in a way that is not toxic and destructive, right? In a way that is not like self-victimizing or trying to place the blame on something outside of ourselves. But I feel like this area of romantic rejection, you can't deny that it is very largely disproportionately felt more by men than by women, right? Because it's the natural order of things. Males or men are usually the ones to chase women, and it's usually like it's a numbers game. So men have to, like, young boys from a young age, they have to get used to and they have to get over the fear of rejection if they want to have any type of success in this life, especially when it comes to romantic success with women. So I feel like that's a very real challenge that men go through, that us as females, we simply don't have to deal with it, right? Because we're the ones that sit back and we wait for the male suitors to come to us with their proposals, and then we accept the one that sounds the best to us, right? Or at least that's how it should be if you're doing dating correctly, but that's another video. So I feel like, in a way, this film offered an amazing vehicle to women to experience a tiny taste of like the anguish that men go through in real life when they have to take all of this rejection from women, right? And they have to do it. I mean, this is part of the, what's it called? The crown of thorns that, I don't know if that's kind of graphic. These are some of the challenges specific to men that they have to bear in this life, and then women, we have other challenges, right? But I feel like it was just brilliant because there's two layers to this, right? Because number one, I think the entire audience, whether you're male or female, we all just find Ryan Gosling's character of Ken very endearing. You just find yourself wanting to root for him because like the portrayal is just so sympathetic. He's a very flawed character. He does some toxic things, but yet you can't bring yourself to quite villainize him, right? And I don't think he's not even presented as a villain in the movie. You know, he's just kind of a foil to Barbie, and you see at the end that he's just doing what everyone in this movie is trying to do, which is to find himself and to find value in himself without having to constantly prove himself in some kind of way, right? So that's one layer where you just feel for him as a character, and then you feel like the same when he gets rejected by Barbie, you feel that same pain right along with him. It's genius, and it's a great insight for female moviegoers in particular to get a taste of unique hardships that men have to go through on a daily basis, right? So I think that's great for us, because anything that allows the genders to understand each other better, I consider that a win. But then the second layer of this is that thinking of Barbie and Ken, like the dolls, the original idea that we have of these dolls getting together and like eventually getting married, having a baby, isn't this what you normally think of? Isn't this the normal course of events that you would anticipate for a Ken and Barbie doll in a Ken and Barbie movie? But yet the movie does not satisfy that itch that we have. It's an itch that we've, for most of us, like, you know, whether like our generation, millennials or older, those are the subset of people that were most likely to have played with a Barbie or several Barbies while growing up. We have this deeply entrenched idea in our mind that Ken and Barbie are supposed to end up together, like they are each other's romantic counterparts, right? We may not have known exactly what they were supposed to do with each other while we were at that young age, right? And the movie kind of pokes fun at this as well when Ken asks Barbie if he can spend the night over at her house, and she's like, well, what would we even do? And obviously the joke there is that they don't have private parts. I almost thought that they were gonna do like, because you know, when we were young, or like when I was a little girl and I would play with the Ken and Barbie dolls, I would make them kiss, but you know, it's a doll, right? So they can't actually put their lips on each other, so you just do like this crisscross motion. I thought for a second that they were gonna do that in the movie, but then they didn't, which makes sense because Barbie's not interested in Ken like that. But yeah, like the movie, aside from just like the humanistic empathy perspective of allowing the female moviegoer a taste of like the male anguish that they have to go through whenever they're rejected by a girl that they're genuinely interested in, there's also like that double layer of the movie denies us, okay, of realizing our desire as young children, like throughout our entire lives, of having Barbie and Ken end up together, because it seems like that's supposed to be canon. That's just the inevitable outcome, but the movie denies us of that, and we have to sit and we have to deal with it, okay? Because you cannot, what are you going to do? Force people to be together that don't want to be together? Barbie does not want to be with Ken, so you cannot force that upon her just because you think that that's the way that the story is supposed to go. So that's why I think that this movie is a masterpiece. Like I said, there's still many other layers that I have probably barely scratched the surface of, but I think I covered a lot in this review. I took Barbie rejecting Ken as allowing women to say no and still feel safe. That too, yeah, that too. This is what I'm saying. There's so many different layers. Like, that's also why we still like Ken in the end, right? Like, Ken is not a villain, because at the end, he's still, no matter how hard it is for him, like no matter how painful the experience is, he's not gonna overstep Barbie's boundaries. He kind of misunderstands her at first when she comes to him to apologize. He takes it as, oh my god, she's saying that she wants to be with me. So he kind of like tries to kiss her, but then she's like, no, that's not what we're doing. And then he doesn't push it further than that, right? Like, you can see that he wants to kiss her, but then when she says no, he kind of like nosedives into the bed in frustration, but he doesn't nosedive onto her, right? Because he's not going to be the R word, R-A-P-E, you know what I'm trying to say. And so I thought that was very valuable too. That was a very valuable demonstration for young boys in particular, that you do not impose on anybody's free will or make anyone do anything out of their comfort zone, or like, yeah, make anyone do anything against their will, especially if it's a girl in that type of a situation. If she's saying no, then it means no. It doesn't matter like how much your body is telling you to do so. That was my review of Barbie. I think, okay, I thought I was gonna watch it a third time, but like now I'm thinking, because I already did 2 very long, lengthy reviews, and we're at the 3-hour mark. Holy crap. I think I'm good on this movie for the time being. I'm probably going to get it when it comes out on DVD. Like, I'm probably gonna rewatch it at some point, probably on a plane, because that's usually where I watch most of my movies. Although recently I've really been enjoying my local theater. I don't know if you guys can tell that I'm doing more spontaneous movie reviews on my channel. That's because my local theater is the bomb. Okay, I live in Tokyo, but I live on the outskirts, so there's not that many people here. Like, the only people who really go to my local theater are the residents here, so it's not like a huge crowd, but they still have state of the art, because this theater is relatively new. This theater was only built like a couple years ago. It was not there when I first moved into this neighborhood, which was like, what, 6 years ago? So yeah, it's like state of the art, brand new theaters and screens and technology, but like not that many people, and I can always get exactly whatever seat I want during the opening day of any movie, no matter how big it is, even Barbie. It's too complex for these men mad at the movie to understand. Yeah, there's like, but it's not just men. There's like men and women who are mad at it. And I'm like, you literally, you are, the more mad, like the more triggered that they get, the more they prove the points that the movie is trying to make. And that's all I have to say about that. So, my God, I feel like I'm screaming now with my voice like halfway gone. I hope that it doesn't come across too jarring in the playback. Oh, one last thing I wanted to say. Okay, so I've always liked this fuchsia hot pink Barbie pink color, right? This is Pantone 219, I believe. I think that they said that while they were filming the movie, there was a worldwide shortage of the 219 pink color because they just used so much of it, which I think is hilarious. This has always been one of my favorite colors, but after watching this movie, I find myself just wanting to live in this color 24/7. Like, I want to wear and be unabashedly pink, and I think I'm just gonna go for it. I feel so at home and empowered in this color because I know, okay, this is how you know. Another thing that I love about this movie is just exposing people left and right. You can tell like who is just a miserable person who's not happy with their life, and who is like happy and balanced and well-centered, taking steps to improve their life just by their reactions to this movie. It's freaking hilarious. Not so much now, but like I guess back in July when the movie first released in like the North American market, everything on TikTok and social media was inundated with Barbie content, right? Like, everyone was doing their little reels and TikToks of dressing up in pink to go to the movies, or like pink, 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 using the Nicki Minaj and Ice Spice song. And you can tell that there were so many like salty, butthurt comments in those videos of people like, oh my God, this is just, you know, consumerism. This is so dumb. People were saying really, really triggered, like really intense stuff. I think one person was even like, oh, you know, Barbie, people should be shot if they mention Barbie one more time. And it's like, whoa, who hurt you, right? And I saw this one TikTok of, it was a woman actually. I don't remember the name or the creator, but they were literally bashing this Barbie pink color, going off for, I want to say, a good 3 minutes straight. It was like a longer TikTok. The whole thing was just them ranting about how much they hate this color and how it looks stupid. The fact that it's trending now with the Barbie movie, they just can't stand it because it looks so stupid. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing that they've ever seen to have people wear all hot pink like this. And I'm just like, whoa. Imagine being so triggered over a color, but at the same time, I kind of get it. I get it because this is almost like, I'm looking at my headband here that actually matches, so I'm gonna put this on. This color is so polarizing in a way, and even me, like, I've had a history of, you know, I had this phase when I was a teenager that I thought I was this like edgy person. I only listened to visual kei punk rock music, and that was my identity as a teenager, right? Even I had a period where I kind of renounced this color. I thought pink was like too girly and it was too weak. The only way that I would wear pink is if it was with black, because I felt like pink and black was edgy enough, but just pink, that was too girly, right? That was too much like the other girls. I'm talking about my teenage self, not myself now. So now I feel like I love the fact that this color is trending, and I actually just ordered a bunch of new pieces off of Shein in this color. And so I have plenty of pink things, right? Like all shades of pink, but I noticed that I don't have that many clothing items of this type of a loud fuchsia pink, and I came to the conclusion that I need more, basically. After the Barbie movie, I feel like it's such a statement to wear this color. It's almost like, okay, how can I explain it? It's giving me the feeling of like, okay, this is the girliest that you can get, right? So I can be unabashedly girly, but at the same time, I feel like I'm backed up by the power and the financial success of the Barbie movie. Because not only is the Barbie movie a cultural success, it surpassed $1 billion at the box office. Did Oppenheimer even surpass $1 billion? I don't know. But like that is a huge number. And that's a huge deal for a movie, especially this day and age when Hollywood, as we all know, it's struggling. And so to have this movie surpass $1 billion, it cements its success and its authority in a masculine way too. So it makes me feel like, okay, it's almost like the people, like there's people out there who are super triggered by this movie and who are like rolling their eyes and they want to throw up whenever they see this pink color being worn by another basic girl. But I feel like me wearing this is kind of sending a signal like, F you, I can wear this and I'm gonna be powerful and be myself and unabashedly wear this. And on top of it, you can't even say anything because the Barbie movie is over $1 billion now. So like you have literally no leg to stand on, and I'm just gonna be out here living my best life in this Barbie 219 fuchsia Malibu pink color, and you can't do anything about it. Like whether you're a man or a pygmy girl, Lily, like you said, you can't do anything about it. And I love that for us, okay? And so I'm going to be wearing this pink. Don't be surprised if you see me in this shade for months and months from now. I'm sure at some point, I'll switch it up with like another color, but at the moment, this is what I'm feeling. That's what I wanted to say about pink. Okay, I need to go. I need to let my voice rest, and I need to let you go on with the rest of your day as well. Thanks so much for joining me, Barbie Oppenheimer. You have to admit, it's like kind of a perfect storm, the fact that they released on the same day. Just the juxtaposition of the content of the two movies, it's kind of wild. And I kind of don't blame people. So anyway, I'll see you later. Bye.